right side to the 10 to the 5. Touchdown! 6. Going to the hoop. Puts it up. Puts it in. A fantastic play.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to Magnolia Fields. I'm your host, Tanner Marler, alongside Cody Blazak, and today we roll on with our season predictions, our preseason coverage, and on tap today, Cody, we have got a lot of schools, 3 through 4A, all right here today on Magnolia Fields.
Yeah, we've got 1 and 2A in the books, and we've got 2 more episodes coming at you, 3A and 4A, and then later on 5 through 7A, and we've covered a lot of schools already. We've got a lot in this 3A through 4A. Got a couple in that 5A through 7A. A lot of fun to get through these episodes, but we got half of the episodes done and still a ton of football to cover.
Yeah, I mean, when we talked about the other day, over 70 schools to get through. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Starting off, again, in alphabetical order, we'll go with Aberdeen. Not a great season for Aberdeen last year. The Bulldogs wound up 1-9, did not make the playoffs. Cody, you've got them going pretty much the same route.
Yeah, same route. They've got a winnable game. They've got a couple winnable games on their schedule, similar to last year where it was a 1 or 2 possession game, just couldn't pull it out. And I feel like they're trending that same direction for this season as well. And they might. This is one of those teams where they could go 0-10 or they could go anywhere in between that 0-10 to maybe like a 2-8, 3-7, but it's just a couple of close games that gets them that they can't finish.
Yeah, we talked about yesterday the 10% better, manage 1 to 2 more wins. If Aberdeen can do that, get to a respectable number, could be trending in the right direction. On into Amory, kind of flipping the script here. The Panthers have been an absolute force in that division. And in this division, you've got them, again, making a deep run or getting primed for a deep run, 10-0 regular season.
Yeah, they had a solid season last year, and they lost both of their games by a combined 11 points. That's a tough way to lose 2 games, and I hate to keep bringing up the 10%, but that extra 10% might win you those 2 games. But on top of the fact that they only lost 2 of those games by 11 points, they've got some big-time returners coming back to this team as well. They've got a couple of seniors coming back. Quarterback Braden Moranto, who not the greatest, but good enough, had over 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns, didn't have a great TD to interception ratio. He had 7 interceptions, but he's got a running back in Emmanuel Randall that is coming back that had over 1,500 yards, 22 TDs on the ground. And Moranto also had 500 on the ground with 4 TDs. So, I mean, you get that dynamic of those 2 coming back. Already, you've got 35-plus touchdowns coming back and close to 3,000 yards of offense coming back. To me, you should be just as good, if not better, than last year.
Yeah, you're returning a lot of firepower for the ground and pound attack. On just down the road into Booneville, they've got 2 big games on the schedule. Ripley on September 20th, Kossuth, big divisional matchup there, as it is every year. This year it's in Aggieland on October the 4th. They're going to get back their, I believe, starting quarterback, running back, and 2 wide receivers.
Yeah, and 2 of those receivers both had 500-plus yards last year. You had a quarterback that was just under 2,000 in the pass category. So similar to Amory, a lot of returning offense. And last year, Booneville went 8-3, made it into the playoffs. That first round, they only lost to Amanda Elsie by 2. A very close game, had a very good opportunity of going to that second round, just couldn't get it done.
Yeah, I mean, Blue Devils obviously always a presence in the postseason up there in Division I, 3A. Choctaw Central went to, predicted for 2-7 this year, but they've got Keyshawn Ben back, and that makes them dangerous no matter what.
Yeah, he's a guy that we've seen a couple of times over the past couple of years. I believe he's coming back as a junior. So we saw him as a freshman and a sophomore, and you and I were kind of blown away with what the kid did. We saw him last year against Philadelphia, I believe, and the kid did it in every aspect of the game. He was able to run the ball. He was able to catch the ball. He had some magnificent punt and kickoff returns. I mean, every aspect of the game he excelled at.
It's the whoever offense. It's whoever can get the ball to Keyshawn, do it.
Yeah, they had a tough season last year. They've got a couple of games. They had a couple of games last year that, like I said, were only lost by a possession or so. You get a little more experience in him. Maybe he can be that X factor and grab you a couple of wins, but still haven't found a way to trend in the right direction, even with a guy as skillful as him.
Yeah, just not the right kind of blend of talent around him. If they can get some push for him up front this year, I think they could really do some damage. On into East Webster, team that has really surprised a lot of people these past few seasons after jumping up into the 3A ranks. You've got them at 7-2, 3-0 in division, but they lost some big-time production out of a good group of seniors last year.
Yeah, they lost their starter and their backup quarterbacks. They kind of split time, but both of those quarterbacks led the team in rushing yards. So now you take away 80% of, maybe closer to 60% of that offense, at least on the ground. That's tough to replace in 1 year. It's possible, but it's still tough to replace. And they made it to that third round last year. They lost, but I think if you can find 60 to 70% of that offense in the quarterback that you get this year, you still have a good chance because you had a lot of other returning starters. You get your running back, two running backs that are returning. You just lost the two guys that had the load on the ground game.
Yeah, and that East Webster team last year liked to run a lot of the veer, liked to run a lot of the option. Those quarterbacks were kind of leaning towards keeping it because they knew they could do damage with their legs. I'm interested to see how that East Webster offense develops in this next season. Big game for them at Calhoun City, September 27th, and then hosting Nettleton on October 31st. That one will be a fun one. That one will be a fun one.
Yeah, we talked about fun games in 1A and 2A. There were some fun games, don't get me wrong. We get into these higher classification schools.
It gets
as you can see in the first, we've been through, 5 schools, I think? 6 schools maybe? They're almost, every team has at least 2 good games, it feels like.
Yeah, 2 sure enough games that you want to be in the stands for. On to Forest High School. Kind of an unsung powerhouse here in recent years. You've got them at 8-2 in a very tough division, but a good chance to grab a bunch of wins in the non-divisional slate.
Yeah, they're just a team that they were able to win a lot of non-divisional games last year. They went 7-3, and you look at if you don't show last year's regional record, you think to yourself 7-3. Well, that's a playoff team.
Yeah,
they didn't make the playoffs last year. They went 1-3 in region games. Like you said, tough region. They were able to grab 6 of their wins in non-region. All of their losses came in region. So you clean up your play in region, and I'm not saying you had a perfect season, but you probably make the playoffs at least.
Yeah, you grab one more of those divisional games, and you absolutely make it. Like you said, or we talked about yesterday, there are 3 seasons within these high school football seasons: as your non-division, your division, and the postseason. They didn't do well during their divisional season last year, and it bit them. So need to find one more win for Forest.
Yeah, and like we said yesterday as well, and on the previous episodes, you cannot make the playoffs without your region, without having a good region record.
Yeah, I mean you can literally go.
You can go undefeated in non-region and lose all your region games, and you're not getting in.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Forest almost did last year.
It is about what they did.
On into Holly Springs High School. 3-7 last year. They didn't have a great year, but they are returning the leading running back and a wide receiver with, I think, one of the better names in MHSAA football.
Yeah, Katravian Kinkle, and you are a guy that likes to have like an all-pro, or in this instance, an all-high school like names list and stuff. Is he there?
Katravian Kinkle is at least second team. I got to look.
Second team,
well,
okay.
I've got to go through the rosters, and eventually we will do this on the show. I got to go through a lot of our coverage area rosters and pick out my first and second team all-name squad.
Through what we've been through thus far, is he still second team or first team?
So far, first team, but I know once we still got a lot of schools.
Yeah, we have a lot of schools to cover. It's still a great name, like you said, but
It is.
Nonetheless, he's your guy that is returning. Really, your only real contributor that returned from last season. Almost had 2,000 all-purpose yards. Had himself 16 touchdowns. He's a guy you're going to rely on, but I'm not sure he will be enough to put you in the playoffs. 0-4 in region last year. You need to find some production elsewhere.
Yeah, I completely agree. On to Houston High School. Houston has been very, very good at the football these past few years. The problem is, so has Louisville.
Yeah, that 4A is tough.
It's so tough. When
you
Louisville is at the top of it, that's the best team in the state. And we'll get to them later.
Houston's a great team. Let's not get us wrong about that. But you look at last season and you say 11-2, 2-1. That's a pretty good season.
It's a great
and it
season.
Is. Lost in the regular season to Louisville, lost in the semifinals to Louisville. They are just like Louisville. They are perfect until they have to play Louisville.
Exactly.
And when you have a powerhouse like Louisville, it's just tough, and they haven't found a way over the hump yet. Maybe it comes this year, maybe it doesn't. But that's one of those teams you look at that says they're going to go all the way depending on where they meet Louisville in the playoffs.
Yeah. And like you said, with Louisville being in that division, they've got to play them once again this year during the regular season. And I think that's your one loss at Louisville on October 4th.
It is. It's a tough loss, too. I mean, you've got a real opportunity. It's just that's when you kind of like if you're Houston, you're thinking to yourself, we'd probably even go to 5A and we could probably do just as good.
Yeah,
like,
you could probably
give us 5A. But Louisville, because you look at Louisville, they went 15-0 last year, won the state championship, but they played tons of 7A schools, and they still didn't lose.
They were playing West Point, who went on to win the state championship. They played Starkville, went on to play in the state championship, beat them all. It
just doesn't matter for Louisville.
It doesn't. They're the best football team in the state. At least they have been the past 2 seasons. On to Kosciuszko, old Kazi, the Whippets. Again, we talked about the Tornadoes being an insanely cool mascot name. The Whippets, awesome. Just awesome. Cody's got them predicted 6-3 this year, splitting their divisional slate 2-2. They're going to return a couple big guys, but
they're losing a lot of guys,
too. They're losing a whole lot of production.
They lost starting quarterback, running back, and 2 wide receivers.
They are losing a whole lot of production.
Yeah, it's that is not what you want if you're a head coach.
No.
So I think they'll have a subpar season. They could have gone a little farther in the playoffs last year. Lost to Amory by 1, 24-23. Tough loss, but couldn't pull it out. And now you got to replace, 4 skill positions, and that's not easy.
No, that's a lot of your production.
It doesn't matter what level. That is not easy to do.
No. Something else that's not easy to do. Leake Central High School. It's not easy to talk about how this team and this program has been the last few years. We got to cover a Leake game last year, and just in a tough spot. They're trying to build something there, trying to improve year after year, and trying to build some kind of foundation.
Yeah, they don't have much going for him on the offensive end, not much going for him on the defensive end either, but they do have one bright spot on the defense with Rye Burks. Had 25 tackles last year, 3 interceptions, but what's crazy is he is the only player on that team that had any interceptions. And you and I briefly talked about it yesterday. Why do you throw in that kid's direction?
I was saying, if nobody else on the team has picked anybody off all season long, why would you not just throw it to the other side?
Yeah, and the good thing for League Central is he did that as a sophomore. He'll be a junior this year.
Yeah.
So, you're doing it as a sophomore. I'd feel pretty comfortable with where this kid's sitting at coming into his junior season.
Yeah, look, trying to get him to produce on the offensive end for you, too, at some point. We'll see. But, yeah, trying to build some kind of foundation over at League Central. We know the basketball's good. Trying to get the football up there with it. A friend of the show, Rion Young, is going to be very happy about what I'm about to call this next school. It's big Louisville time, okay? predicted to go 10-0. I've got them repeating. I don't know who is going to stand in their way in 4A.
Like we said, Houston's a good team, but I don't think they have it, especially when you look at the craziness that is returning to Louisville. Your quarterback, who had over 2,000 yards and 22 touchdowns, is returning. He also had 5 touchdowns on the ground. You did lose your lead rusher, but you return a couple of wide receivers as well. And the defense.
Well, you get most of the offensive line back, too.
That, too. But the defense, that's what's scary. 75 sacks last season. That's on average 5 a game.
Yeah.
They had 14 interceptions. They played 15 total games, including the playoffs. What is it, 0.9 interceptions a game or whatever it is?
As near as makes no difference. An interception per game. That's an extra possession per game.
And this is why Louisville is as good as they are. Not only is their offense spectacular,
their defense makes that team.
Yeah, when you stop the offense, good luck trying to score on the defense, and vice versa.
Good luck. I mean, it is just a recipe for a bad night. If you're playing the Wildcats, I think Tyrone Shorter has built arguably one of the most impressive head coaching tenures we've seen in this state's history over at Louisville. I don't see them losing steam anytime soon. I'm very intrigued to see where this goes.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, it's hard not to pick them to repeat. I would imagine, it would be my guess, that you will see them face Houston in the postseason. You hope for a good game, but sometimes, being from Alabama, this is the best way I can put it. Louisville is the Alabama of Mississippi.
Absolutely. I don't think you'll find anybody to argue with you on that.
No, I hope not.
No, absolutely not. Moving into Nettleton, I think they've got one of the more exciting players in the state under center and Bryson Williams. You've got them 7-2, 3-1 postseason team, and I agree with you. I think that's about where they wind up.
Yeah, they're a pretty solid team, and like you said, Williams, just a junior.
Yeah,
just a junior. In his sophomore year, had 2,200 pass yards for 23 interceptions, and he had 1,000 on the ground with 12 touchdowns.
Kid is electric.
As a sophomore.
Kid is electric.
I mean, he is going to will Nettleton to a lot of wins. It's just how many can he will them to?
Yeah. How many can you? I mean, because the thing is, you got to have your teammates behind you to do that too.
Yeah, you also had a defensive star for them too last year with Jaden Dilworth, who had 5 interceptions last season. I mean, you played 10 games, 5 interceptions. Every other game had a turnover.
Yeah,
that's a solid piece returning to your defense. He's a senior.
Yeah, and both of those guys, dual sport athletes, played basketball too. Just a really great crop of athletes over at Nettleton, as always. It seems like. I don't think they win state. I don't think they make just a super deep run, but it's worth the price of admission to go watch Bryson Williams do his thing on Friday nights.
They did make the playoffs last year. They lost the first round. At least in my mind, what you start to wonder is if you can at least keep sneaking into the playoffs when you have a guy like that, maybe he does get you 1 or 2, and maybe some miraculous run does come out of it. Because, I mean, he's a guy that you look at as an X factor type of player.
Because Braylon Williams is on your team, you have a chance to win the game.
Yeah, and that's the case when you get in the playoffs. It's a brand new season when you're in the playoffs. It doesn't matter what you went in the regular season or whatever. All you got to worry about is winning that game and getting to the next round. And sometimes a player like that can do it.
Absolutely. New Albany High School. Moving on to those Bulldogs. 6-3 is your prediction. 3-1 in divisional. I like it. I think they're a solid team. They've got a really good quarterback under center and Braden Shettles. We've seen him play a lot. I think they're going to be a solid opponent, a lot like Nettleton, who, by the way, big rivalry there. New Albany, Nettleton. That might be a good game to get out to this year if we can. Note to the folks in the back. But I kind of agree with you on the Bulldogs prediction. That's about where I'd put them.
They also got dealt a tough run in the playoffs. They had to face the state champs and Louisville.
Yeah.
When you meet them, there's not much you can do about it. Like you said, good quarterback in Braden Shettles, but you're losing, again, this is another one of those teams that is losing
A
2
lot of
receivers that had 500-plus yards, and you're also losing your star back and Keelan Simpson, who had an 1,000-yard season last year with 15 touchdowns. So a lot of offense taken away. I mean, just in those 3 players, you take away 2,000 yards. So just replacing that is not easy.
Yeah, usually not a problem for New Albany to replace something like a good running back. Going to be tough to replace those guys on the outside. Going to be tough to get 500 yards just out of some Joe Schmo you grabbed out of study hall.
Yeah, I mean, well, you know it's coming as a coach, so I imagine you've got your eye out for it and everything, but when it comes down to it, it's can they perform?
It's all about Jimmys and Joes in some leagues, and that's one of them. Newton County High School. I think we've pegged this one pretty close, middle of the pack, close to 500. You've got them 5-4 because they had 9 games listed. Big game for them against West Lauderdale on November the 1st.
Yeah, this is another team. Good sign. Returning starting quarterback who just under 2,000 yards last season returns. You lost your leading rusher in Kamari Brown, though.
Yeah.
And they were middle of the pack last year. I think to expect the same thing with them again. Like I said, you get your starting quarterback back, but you still got to find production on the ground where you lost your leading rusher. So I think they can sneak a couple extra wins out. They're another one of those teams where this is their record with 5-4, but it's very possible they look at 4-5 or 6-3 or 3-6. Yeah, it that's like the median of where I feel they'll be at, the most reasonable.
Yeah, and just quick episodically shout out. Is that a word? Episodically?
It is now.
It is now.
All words are made up.
If you're a coach and you're listening to this or watching this, please keep your Max Preps updated. Please. Because I don't think they only play 9 games. They probably play 10. We have no idea who that 10th game is to, so we cannot talk about it. So please keep the information updated and available. It makes our job a lot easier. It makes it a lot easier to talk about you. Get all the free exposure you want. On into North Pontotoc High School. Again, a middle-of-the-pack team. Got them predicted 5-5. They get their quarterback back. Tell us a little bit about him.
Dual threat, more
I was going to
put on the ground than anything. 723 pass yards compared to 1,100 rush yards. So, I mean, they run the ball a lot more. Let's put it that way.
They do.
He had 15 touchdowns on the ground, though, 6 in the air. Had 5 interceptions, so almost a 1-to-1 ratio. Not great, but hey, you let the kid run the ball, let him run. He did great. Drew Winfun, I mean, I imagine you'll see another 1,000+ year on the ground for him, and he did that as a sophomore. So you get him back as a junior, and this is what I like to see if I'm a coach. Is we looked at a couple of quarterbacks that were coming into their junior season that had some really ridiculous numbers in their sophomore season. Williams, one of them. This is another guy, not as good numbers, but you look at that as a head coach, as a sophomore, and you think,
we can build on this.
Junior and senior year, come at us, because we can improve this guy.
We can build on this. Absolutely. Moving on a bit to the Tigers of Noxubee County High School and 4-star Mississippi State commit Camario Taylor. We are definitely going to go out and watch a Noxubee game this year, some way, shape, or form. I cannot wait to see this kid in action. And you think Noxubee County's 8-1, and I agree. Yeah,
they had a 9-6 season, including the playoffs. 9-6 last year. They lost the 3A state championship game to Winona. Those 6 losses, though, well, 5 were from the regular season, 1 were from the championship, but those 5 were from non-region games.
non-divisional games.
This is another team, kind of like Louisville, that has scheduled a lot of upper region play because they know what they have. Let's test them.
Yeah,
they lost 3 games last year by a combined 4 points, and it was like that third way. You look at a third of the calendar of their schedule. That's about where this was at. They lost to Shannon, Louisville, and Kemper County by a combined 4 points. 4 4 points. So
Go grab a kicker.
and you talk about 10%, you need a 1%
Go grab
better
a kicker
in those games.
Go find a kicker.
But yeah, you said it. Camario Taylor, that's the dude to watch. Last season, 3,600 pass yards. You know how many passing touchdowns he had?
Enough.
48.
Enough.
He had just under 800 rush yards along with another 15 touchdowns. I mean, the dude can play football.
Yeah, he's going to be fun to watch. On into Tippah County, Ripley High School. Got them going 7-2, always a force in that division. Again, not expecting a state title, but expecting a good run.
Yeah, they're a team that might sneak a state title out every once in a while. They've got a phenomenal defense.
They do.
The offense is, it just isn't there. And that's why they win these games. A lot of close games that they win, that defense keeps them in it. They went 9-2 last season, 4-0 in region. So you expect them to come out and do something similar. They're just a good team. They play old school, just tough football, and it makes them good.
Yeah. I mean, just hard-nosed, ground and pound, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. And they're going to tackle. They're going to swarm the football. It's going to be fun to watch if you are a fan of the 1980s. If you got a Poison cassette player, you know.
Do you have one of those?
I do, actually.
Do you actually?
I do. I own the Top Gun soundtrack, okay? I have got cassettes.
You have the Top Gun 1 and 2?
Yes.
You have both of them?
Yes.
You got the Aviators too?
Obviously, I have two on my phone, but I have the cassette and I have the CD of Top Gun 1.
So how often do you listen or use the cassette, I should say?
Well, I listen to the Top Gun soundtrack every morning.
Okay. Just making sure.
As everyone should. Shannon High School got them 3-5 this year. Big game against Saltillo on 9/27.
Yeah, they're a team that's got – this is a team that's got a lot of returning players, but they decided to make their schedule just a little bit tougher. And they went 6-5 last season. That's why I think you're going to see a 3-5 season. They might go 5-5. Like we said, there are only 8 games listed right now. So maybe if they are playing 10, they add the other 2. Maybe that goes up to 5-5. It's just we can only go on what we have at the moment. But quite a bit of returners coming back, both lead rushers. You get a 800-yard wide receiver. Your quarterback threw for almost 2,000 yards last year.
2,000
pretty solid season. But they also met a powerhouse in Houston in that first round, which is where things go downhill.
Yeah, it all depends on who you wind up with in that first round. South Pontotoc High School over there in Pontotoc County, the great rivalry up there. We got them at 4-6. Who do you think takes the county this year? I think it's North.
Probably. The thing with South Pontotoc snuck out a lot of close wins.
Yes, they did.
Didn't have not a great team. They had a combined team rushing of 1,700 yards, 14 touchdowns. It's not really where you want to be at. Yes, you snuck some wins out. You got a region win. You snuck into the playoffs, but you need more on the offensive end.
Find the end zone. You had 1,700 rushing yards as a team and only 14 touchdowns. Find the end zone.
Yeah.
Just run 10 yards further. That's all it takes. That's all it takes.
A little bit easier said than done, but
Truth. On into the Braves, Tishomingo County High School. They have not played good football at Tishomingo County High School in a long time. That's not changing this season.
No, I don't think it is either. Didn't make the playoffs last year. Don't think they're going to do it again. Had 2 wins, non-region last year. They're just a team that they're going to struggle. Think they might pull out one, but
maybe they
it's
beat
going to be a tough season.
Maybe they beat Alcorn Central this year.
It's possible.
It's possible. It's possible. But yeah, I think 1-9 is right on hitting the nail on the head for them. That's about all the time we've got here. This was a long, long preview episode. We've got a few teams in 5 through 7, so we can kind of.
I want to say we have 7 teams.
Yeah, we can.
So
we can get some more talking points in through there.
I mean, we got fun coming our way.
We absolutely do. Thank you, as always, for joining us. Thanks to all of our great crew here on the Magnolia Fields Show. This is Tanner and Cody. We'll see you guys next time.